Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 387, recorded live on June 19th. It's a Friday. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have Steiner-Davion.
Hello.
Welcome back, sir. Good to have you as always. This week's screenshot, Romance Blooms in Tempest Spine in the 227th screenshot of the week. It's a nice little shot there. Fun in Tempest Spine. It's a fun little quest. You get a lot of nice, pretty looking scenic shots in that quest, as in many other quests in the game. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, or from our website at DDOCast.com. If you are watching us on Twitch, welcome to the live version of the show. We are probably going to pretty much stay on Twitch. There was going back and forth between Twitch and also Google Hangouts. But I think we're going to stay with Twitch. It seems to be working a little cleaner. Trying something a little different here. We're not actually using Hangouts to record. We're using Skype as a change. So that's why the formatting is a little different. We're going to give it a shot. Hopefully folks like it. If you don't, please leave me a comment. If you do, please leave me a comment. Let us know one way or the other. If you have an opinion that is anything more than not, and you want your opinion to be heard, let me know. Leave a comment, send me an email. Even you don't like it, let me know that too. In any case, DDOcast is hosted by Cyber Ears. The awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next Saturday, and you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOcast.com, and we have a calendar there. I haven't been plugging as much lately, but I'll plug it here a little bit. There's a calendar on there. Assuming it's still working correctly, you can subscribe to it. I put in the store sales. I also put in bonus days, special things that are going on, and when DDO Splat is going to be, when DDOcast is going to be. It moves around a little bit. Those last two in particular, because I kind of have to update it and when I figure out when it's going to be. Some of them are just there for placeholders, so you can check that out. Enjoy that. Or you can completely ignore it. I don't really care. It was pretty easy to set up. Before we get any further, I am supposed to remind people, people were asking on Twitter, that there is the Halfling Summer Games today. And it's pretty much starting up just about now. It's on Kyber, so if you want to go participate in that, I was asked to plug it at the top of the show, so there you go. See, I pay attention to all the stuff that you guys tweet me and send me and all that stuff. On the podcast this week, Update 26 hit live, so we'll talk about that. We announced our next contest and community event, so we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll plug that. And we're also going to talk about weapon styles. And we're going to try not to get bogged down in any one of these. The intent here is not to be completely exhaustive in the information. However, we do want to kind of give you a starting point, as it were. Some of the things you want to consider, what classes work particularly well for these, that kind of stuff. We're going to kind of do more of an overview than an in-depth discussion of each of them. And hopefully that's okay with Stein. I didn't really prep him on that part beforehand, but I'm sure we'll make it work. Sound good?
I think so. Yeah.
The downside to this version of having this two-shot here is you're going to have to watch me drink water, which I usually try to do while other people are live, but I'm sure we'll get over that. So, to start our roundtable discussion about weapon styles, we are going to start with two-weapon fighting, which is where you have a weapon in both hands. Now, I'll preface that we're not really going to talk about this from a caster point of view. A lot of casters tend to use two weapons because they have two casting sticks. We're not really going to talk about that. We're going to talk about actually fighting with two-weapon fighting. So, Steiner, I'm going to pass it over to you. What are some feats that we want to be using? What are some considerations of this weapon style? Why is it a good or bad weapon style? That kind of stuff.
Well, first off, it used to be the end-all, be-all. It used to be being the primary phrase there of DPS. Things
Also,
you really need to look.
A quick anecdote in that frame of reference. It also used to be a chief cause of lag, because what was happening was they were doing every swing of both your main hand and your offhand would produce a physics check, which was really bogging down, and it was very noticeable in beat 'em down boss fights where you had 12 two-weapon fighters beating something down. TOD Part 2 was kind of the main instigator.
And the Shroud.
Shroud to a lesser extent, I think. But
I think
it was
just
kind of
really added up at the portals. But anyway, that's a rabbit hole for another day. So to answer the original question, there's two things I think you really need to look out for when you're two-weapon fighting. Dexterity, because the feats require certain dexterity base points based upon your initial attributes, any tomes you've used, and any level up points you put into your dexterity. That does not include items you're wearing or your enhancements. So then, of course, the next thing obviously you need there are the feats. There are, I believe, 4 of them. There's two-weapon fighting, improved two-weapon fighting, greater two-weapon fighting, and I think there's a superior two-weapon fighting now at the epic level.
Yeah, there's that one.
Yeah. There's also two-weapon defense, which I wouldn't recommend as a must-have feat.
I think that's what, 10 PRR?
Somewhere around there.
I think it's like a little bit of AC and some PRR.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that feat is not worth it for the gain versus expending the feat itself.
Maybe if you can't find something to use.
Yeah, if you got feats to burn.
I don't think I've ever seen a build that someone's posted that used that feat.
Yeah.
There's also two-weapon blocking, I think. There's like I think there's 2 defensive feats, but I'm not quite positive. No one ever I've never seen anyone like make a build and share it and use either of them. So
yeah, it's either two-weapon defense or two-weapon blocking or both. But yeah, no one's ever posted the use of those on the forums.
I think it's important to note that you can two-weapon fight even if you don't have the feats. There is a penalty to hit even if you have the feat, you're going to take a -2 to hit with when you're two-weapon fighting. Not a big deal. If you don't have any of the feats, it's I think it might be up to like -6 or 10 or something like that.
Yeah, it gets pretty bad.
Significant. But even then, it's not. I'm trying to remember what the pen and paper version is, and the pen and paper, I think it's pretty extreme unless you have, unless you're using. There's kind of a weird thing where if you're using light weapon in your offhand, then it's a different set of penalties, and that's true in DDO as well. There's oversized. I think it's oversized two-weapon fighting or something like that, where you can use a non-light weapon in your offhand without an additional penalty. It's not generally necessary in my experience. Most people don't have a problem hitting in the game. So anything that's just boosting your to hit generally isn't really something you need, unless you're getting some other benefits out of it. As far as builds that are going to be really effective using two-weapon fighting, fighters, of course, get a bonus to most of these because they get extra feat slots. It can be a little hard to fit the two-weapon fighting line into your feats. However, just generally, builds that are going to do really well here are ones that have lots of on-hit proc effects. So Barbarians are really popular right now because of their enhancement pass. They can get a lot of bonuses here. Rogues are great because you get a lot of sneak attack damage on top of that. So those are kind of things to consider as you're looking for what kind of builds you want to use. Obviously, you're not going to be using a shield, so splashing those 3 levels for a defender stance may not be as beneficial here because may not. Traditionally, two-weapon fighters generally have evasion, not always, but rangers actually get these feat lines for free. The two-weapon fighting specific ones, two-weapon fighting greater and improved, they get those for free provided they're wearing light armor and they have evasion. Rogues, like I said, are really popular for this. They have evasion. Monks, which we'll kind of get into again, have evasion. So you're not generally going to see. You will, but they're not as popular to see them as heavy or medium armor builds, with the possible exception of barbarians nowadays. It's
Yeah.
changed a little bit, but
Yeah, just to go back a minute here, the without the first two-weapon fighting feat, the penalties are -6 to your main hand and -10 to your offhand. Taking the feat lessens each of those by 2. So your penalty in your main hand is
should be more than that.
-4. Oh, -2 for your main hand and by 4 for your offhand. So it becomes -4, -4. And then if you have a light weapon in your offhand, each of those are reduced by another -2.
Down to -2.
To be -2, -2. And then oversized two-weapon fighting basically makes any weapon in your offhand considered a light weapon for the penalty of 2 for the purposes of two-weapon fighting.
Yes. Okay, so there's some ways to go with two-weapon fighting. So look for on-hit proc effects. That's going to make these really good.
I think it's 20% as base, and then taking the first feat is another 20%.
Yeah, you get an additional 20% with your
one.
offhand. The way I talked about the physics checks. The way that it works now is you do a physics check. Your main hand hits, for your main hand to hit, if that hits, they don't do more physics calculations. Physics calculations, by the way, that's kind of the game determining when you swing a weapon. Yes, you hit that.
Yeah, basically
now
it's to see if your character is within the tabletop 5-foot space of the monster you're trying to attack. Basically, Can you reach them with your sword?
The way that it works now is it does that for your main attack, if that hits, then you have a % chance for your offhand to do to just make an attack. It doesn't do the physics calculation; just rolls attack and damage. This is also how you was kind of when we got double strike when they made this change as well. So if your main hand hits, and there's a % chance you'll do your double strike, which will then if you do a double strike, you get a % chance to do your offhand attack. So you can get a lot of stuff going on here. I also want to make sure that we mention that with double strike and your offhand chances, if you use a special attack, touch of death from a monk, for example, which was a really popular one when this first came out. Each of those successive % chance to hit will also proc that effect. So if you swing one of those, your main weapon's going to get it. You proc a double strike, that gets a chance to set that off like a smite or anything like that. And then your offhand chances also get that as well.
So basically you have 3 chances for it to go off.
You get up to 4, I think, because you can get your main, the double strike main, and then 2 offhand procs.
I wasn't quite sure about the second offhand proc.
I think it does. I'm not positive.
Yeah, but the important thing too regarding this offhand proc chance is that by taking the two-weapon fighting feat line, you also increase the offhand proc attack for your unarmed monk attacks.
Yeah, we're going to talk about unarmed later.
Yeah, but not for druid animal forms.
Right. The last thing I want to mention here is the Tempest line in Ranger, Enhancement line in Ranger specifically, will further increase your offhand % chance and double strike as well. So that's something you can consider. And they get this for free. So that's why you see a lot of Rangers either using bows or 2 weapons because of that.
Yeah, there's also a couple enhancements in the Shintel monk line as well. Death Strikes and Meditation of War.
So let's talk about two-handed fighting. So we were talking about 2 weapons where you had one in each hand. Two-handed fighting is you have 1 weapon and it's so big you need both hands to swing it. And
big numbers, not a lot of swings.
Right.
Versus 2 weapons, it's a lot of numbers because of a lot of swings.
And I want to mention too, before we really kind of get into this, Dwarven axes and Bastard swords basically function the same as a two-handed weapon, provided that you have nothing or a shield in your offhand. So basically not another weapon. So there's again 3 feats here: two-weapon fighting, two-handed fighting, improved two-handed fighting, greater two-handed fighting. These are strength-based instead of instead of dex-based like two-weapon fighting. I think the first one's strength 13.
Two-handed fighting requires a 15 strength.
15.
And then improved two-handed fighting requires a 17 strength and a base attack of +6. And then greater two-weapon fighting, 17 strength and a base attack bonus of +11.
You actually find that in all of these lines, the normal version does not have a base attack. The improved is +6, greater is +11. With two-handed fighting, so two-weapon fighting is you're pretty much only hitting one thing, the one right in front of you. Two-handed fighting, if you're going to really invest in it, this is one that's kind of more important to go big or go home. The reason for this is two-handed fighting has what's called glancing blows. So when you swing at the monster in front of you, you're not only going to hit that one, but you're going to kind of do a little bit of damage to the rest of the stuff that's kind of in that same arc to hit. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the first feat gives you an additional glancing blow with an attack, and the third one gives you a third. You get one base. And then first one is an additional glancing blow, and the third one is a second additional glancing blow.
So the description says two-handed fighting, without any feats, you do an extra, or you do 20% of your normal weapon damage if you have a glancing blow.
Right.
Two-handed fighting increases that by +10%, and it grants you a 3% chance for weapon effects that trigger on glancing blows.
Somewhere in there, you get another glancing blow. But that's the things that are going to improve two-handed fighting. Besides the feats, you'll see a lot of enhancements and some stuff in Destinies. You're going to see things that are basically you'll increase the percent damage you're doing with the glancing blow and the percent chance to have a proc effect, which I believe is rolled independently for each of those procs on your weapon. So what's going on there is you swing. The thing that you have targeted is going to take your normal weapon damage, just like any other weapon style. And then the stuff around it is going to take a percentage of that base weapon damage. That's the first number you see in your floating numbers. Everyone else is going to take a percentage of that. And then there's a percent chance for each of those procs that they'll get hit with those procs, and you can boost those up. Barbarians have some bonuses there. There's also the not primal. What's the barbarian? Frenzied? No.
Frenzied.
The Destiny that's barbarian based.
The heck is that?
Fury something.
Fury of the Wild.
Yeah, that sounds right. Sorry, momentary brain fart. That one also has some percent chance boosts in there. So that's what you're looking at. That's how you're going to do your increase your damage with this one. Two-weapon fighting again was kind of more of you're attacking one thing. Two-handed fighting, you get fewer attacks. They're going to be bigger numbers, and you're also going to be hitting things around them. Some stuff to know with that: if you're playing with a bard that's using a lot of fascination, that can be problematic because you're going to hit all that stuff. If you're, say, running something like the Dust Quest, Let Sleeping Dust Lie in Fail, you're going to hit the spiders. There's some things to know about this.
Yeah. You have to be aware of your surroundings. It's great to wade into a whole bunch of trash mobs, and if you're two-handed fighting, just kind of so you can clear them all out at once. But at the same time, you don't want to have your bard fascinate stuff or have your caster put monsters to sleep only for you to wade in there and just wake them all up again.
Yeah, your weapon is an area of effect weapon.
Yeah.
That's important to know. The other thing we want to make sure we mention with two-handed fighting is power attack. Normally, power attack takes 5 off of your attack, or up to 5 off your attack, and adds 5 to your damage. If you're two-handed fighting, you get double that damage, so it's 10 damage. You still only lose 5 to your attack, but you get more damage. You also, it should be noted that with two-handed fighting, your whatever attribute you're using for damage, you get 1.5 times that with two-handed fighting. So it's. We also didn't mention with two-weapon fighting. Two-weapon fighting, you get your full attribute damage with your main hand and half of that with your offhand. So you put those. So it's kind of like your offhand's kind of your weaker hand, right? As I'm waving my primary hand around, actually. So your offhand's going to be doing is half as strong as your main hand. So when two-weapon fighting, your offhand is doing only half that attribute damage. With two-handed fighting, you get both of those put together in the same weapon. So it's important to know how that works.
And the two-handed fighting feat line also, each feat adds +2 to your melee power.
I think the two-weapon fighting does. I think most of the lines now are doing that. If you take all the lines, you'll get up like an additional 6 melee power. If you want big numbers, two-handed fighting is the way to go. This is where you're going to get, generally speaking, your biggest melee numbers in terms of one hit. My barbarian is his kind of philosophy is hit really big. Not necessarily concerned as much with how many times he's going to hit, but when he hits hard, he wants to hit as hard as he can. And this is probably where we're going to end up going for that. I should also mention, too, that glancing blows actually hit the thing you're attacking, too. So you get to hit it 1.5 times-ish, kind of depending on how it works. Anything else you should mention with two-handed fighting?
No, I mean, fighters and monks both get it as bonus feats for their class feats, too.
I don't think monks get two-handed, do they?
That's what the wiki says.
Two-weapon?
Two-handed fighting.
And for quarterstaffs, maybe?
Probably, yeah, for the Shintel line.
I was going to mention that, I forgot. Quarterstaffs are two-handed fighting, so if you're making a staves build, either with a rogue or a monk, probably a rogue. The rogue line is quite a bit better these days. You'll probably want to look at the two-handed fighting line as well. So something to keep in mind. Single weapon fighting.
AKA swashbucklers.
Yeah. So obviously bards. But what are some of the considerations for this one, Steiner?
Well, the important thing is, unless you are in fact a swashbuckling bard, single weapon fighting means absolutely nothing in your offhand, in terms of a weapon.
We should mention too with that for bards, it's a multi-selector for what they can use in their offhand.
Right. So bards get the option to put something useful with an extra bonus through the swashbuckler line. But basically, single weapon fighting, you only have one weapon equipped. Just make sure I didn't miss anything here.
There's a feat line like the other ones, so there's single weapon fighting, improved, and greater.
Yeah.
The thing that's kind of screwed with these ones is it requires balance skill.
Yeah.
And unlike
starting with 2 ranks of balance for single weapon itself.
I think it's interesting and worth noting here is two-weapon fighting and two-handed fighting, the first feat requires a base attack bonus of +1. Single weapon fighting does not, which is important because many classes like rogues and bards don't actually start with a +1 to hit or +1 base attack bonus.
But they're 3/4, aren't they?
Yeah, so they're unless you're full base attack bonus, you don't start at level 1 with a +1 to your base attack bonus. Otherwise, you have to wait till level 2. But with single weapon fighting, that's not an issue because it doesn't require a base attack bonus at its first level. It's just the balance, the skills and balance, and rank and balance. That's when during character creation you have to actually take balance, not bonuses to balance. Like your dex modifier or a skill item, it's how many ranks you have.
Yep, you actually have to spend your valuable skill points in balance, which is not necessarily a bad thing because I think every character should have at least 10 ranks in balance.
Generally speaking, so single weapon fighters, bards are by far and large going to be, I'd say probably 90% of single weapon fighters are going to be at least a couple levels of bard. Just so they can use single weapon fighting.
Yeah.
The swashbuckling stuff. It's a really nice combination.
Yeah. The important thing to note here too about single weapon fighting, Well, it was conceived in DDO for the swashbuckler build or enhancement tree for bards. And when you think swashbucklers, you think like rapiers and daggers, like pirates and Inigo Montoya and Dread Pirate Roberts and the Grey Mouser or somebody like that from North mythology. But anyway, all those guys wield light weapons, daggers and rapiers and things like that. That is not the case with that single weapon fighting feat line itself in DDO. You can use any weapon that's one-handed in your main hand, unless you're a bard swashbuckling.
Right. The swashbuckling, it's a weird distinction, right? That there's single weapon fighting and then there's swashbuckling, and they overlap, but they're not just the one, right? So they're not necessarily
Swashbuckling
completely
is single weapon fighting plus.
Yes, and there's extra requirements on it, like it has to be a finessable weapon.
Yeah.
So it's something to bear in mind. It's also worth noting that we mentioned that bastard swords and dwarven axes, which are one-handed weapons, can use the two-handed fighting lines to improve their glancing blows. Two-handed fighting and single weapon fighting is exclusive for primarily this reason, so you can't benefit from both of them. So that's worth noting. You want to make sure that you're not trying to cross paths there. That can get you into some trouble.
Yeah, I should correct myself a little bit too. The single weapon fighting feat does not work with a thrown weapon as your only weapon equipped in your two hands.
Right. There are, however, some swashbuckler enhancements that do work for throwing. So
yeah,
it gets a little confusing when you overlap.
Yeah, that's part of the swashbuckling line.
Right.
And not the single weapon fighting feat line.
Swashbuckling is not single weapon fighting. Single weapon fighting is not swashbuckling, but they do overlap.
Yeah.
And have a lot of similarities in what they're doing. Single weapon fighting, you're generally going to be attacking faster. So again, on hit, procs are beneficial, not as much as two weapon fighting. It does generally higher damage against one target. Again, I don't know, anything else we should kind of mention?
No, I think that about covers it all. Again, it's a bonus feat for fighters as well. That whole line.
Most of these fighting feats are.
Yeah.
So let's talk about sword and board. This is kind of a fun and fancy term for using a shield. People call it sword and board.
Yep.
Doesn't necessarily mean you have to use a sword in your hand, but you have a shield, which is the board part.
Yep.
Again, there's three kind of primary. I won't say three primary line or feats here, but it's a little different. So there's shield mastery and
which
improved
has
shield mastery.
Yeah, two of those.
And those ones, so the first three that we've covered, two weapon fighting, two-handed, they have 3 feats each, and each of them give 2 melee power. For sword and board, your shield mastery and improved shield mastery give you each +3 to melee power. There's another feat, improved shield bash, which gives you a 20% chance to hit things with your shield when you hit with your main hand. Now, personally, I tend not to take that feat. Shields aren't generally great offensive weapons, and if I'm going sword and board, the main advantage here is defense. Particularly if you're using a defender, but not always. You get a lot of extra defense. It's worth noting that if you have a heavy shield or a tower shield, your MRR versus things that proc a reflex save for half damage, your MRR gets doubled if you have a heavy shield or a tower shield. Now, you can't evade while you're using those. There's reason. That's kind of the trade-off there.
Right.
But it's worth noting for that.
Yeah, if you want to use a shield, you really need to see if you can fit in the shield mastery line into your build feat selection.
It's only 2 feats.
Yeah, it's usually pretty easy, unless you're super specialized and multi-classing and trying to fit a bunch in.
It gives
proof
you
shield best.
It gives you what? Extra attack speed, a little extra attack speed. You get some PRR.
Double striking increase, PRR, extra armor class, obviously.
The PRR is based off of what type of shields. There's buckler or light shield,
Yeah.
heavy shield, and tower shield.
Yeah, it's 5 for small shields and bucklers, 10 for large shields, and 15 for tower shield. And that's doubled again if you go take the improved shield mastery line. So that's 10, 20, 30 for
That's
each
a
of
lot
those
of
shield
extra
types.
defense.
Yeah.
I mean, this is if you're going really defensive and you've got the tower shield and a stalwart line. There's also the vanguard line in both paladin and
Fighter.
fighter. So I mean, you can really really boost your AC and PRR and MRR with combining all this stuff.
Yeah.
You were
There's
going to say
also-
about the shield bash feat?
Yeah, like Patrick said earlier, it's not really worth it at all. There's usually something a lot better that you can take, but I suppose if you have feats to burn and you want to play around with it, go for it, but there's probably something better you could take.
If you're really investing in Vanguard and really getting the extra shield procs, which will do some things when you hit with shield, it can be beneficial. My sword and board character is a paladin, and he's more heavily invested in the defender line than he is the Vanguard line. So I'm not really trying to boost my my shield procs, at least not intentionally. It's not a focus. And again, shields are, unless you're creating an alchemical shield, you're not really going to have a lot of options in terms of finding a really good shield and really finding damage and making that all work as well as you can with a weapon.
Yeah. Unless you were me way back in the day when Threnel was the loot run and every single chest you pulled had at least one ghost touch shield of bashing for your character.
Nice combination there.
There is one more shield feat that's out there, and I'm kind of have like a mixed bag on it, but it's the shield deflection feat. When actively blocking with any type of shield you're proficient with, you gain a competence bonus based on the type of shield to completely ignore acid, cold, electric, and fire damage. That's 20 for bucklers, 25 for small shields, large shields with 30, and tower shields with 40% chance to just completely ignore basically the elemental type damages, usually from area effect stuff.
See, my kind of feeling on that was you have to be actively blocking.
Yep.
And think about how often you are actively blocking. I mean, it used to be that the way Intimitanks worked several years ago, you might see more blocking. You just don't actively block that much.
Yeah, I mean, I always know that I have abilities that work really well when you're actively blocking. Not that I ever really take this feat, but in the midst of like fighting, I'm too busy swinging or not trying to die to actively block.
Yeah, there's some places where blocking is helpful, but it just, I don't take the feat primarily because of that reason. I have to be actively blocking. Again, I'm on a paladin, so I'm feat starved as it is, and it's just not. Blocking is not something I'm going to be doing a lot, so I'd rather spend the feat on something else that can be more generally useful.
Yeah, I think the only times I've ever purposely actively blocked was when I was creating a shield wall for an archer behind me to take out the archer on the other side of the room, because you keep getting plinked if you're trying to shoot the guy. So you stand in front of someone with a shield and block, the arrows hit you instead of the guy trying to shoot.
So some sword and board, and we're going to start getting into some synergy stuff here. I believe you can use sword and board or the shield mastery feat if you are swashbuckling with a buckler.
Yep.
You can use those lines. I also wanted to mention that if you have the two-handed fighting line and you can use a dwarven axe or a bastard sword with the two-handed fighting line, and also use both of those lines of feats together.
Yeah, you can use the shield line and the two-handed weapon fighting line
Right.
together, and the single weapon fighting line if you're swashbuckling.
Correct. Now we're talking about unarmed, and this is almost exclusively monks. With the Grand Master of Flowers Destiny, you can get a little more out of that, but it's generally monks. I mean, I think it was Steel Star was posting that posted mention of making a barbarian and then using Grandmaster of Flowers and being unarmed, and actually being fairly effective. But most people, if you're going to be unarmed, you're probably talking about a monk. There's no feats specifically for unarmed. However, they do gain the same advantages from two-weapon fighting. So you take that line, and you get chances for your offhand procs. Let's see. It's also unarmed is considered bludgeoning. So improved critical bludgeoning is a feat that you're going to want to take with this. It's also worth noting that you get your full attribute to damage with your offhand attacks as a monk. With unarmed. So you're going to do a little bit more damage than you would with just two-weapon fighting in that respect. If you're really going to commit to unarmed as a weapon style, more monk levels is going to be better.
Yeah, because the base feat and not being a monk, unarmed attacks do 1d3 points of bludgeoning damage, or 1d2 if you're a halfling, with a 20 times 2 crit range, if you're interested. But monks at level 1 gain unarmed strike passive feat, which increases their damage to 1d6 at level 1, all the way up to 3.5 d6 at level 20.
Yeah,
and it looks like it goes up a half die every 4 levels.
Something like that. There's also the monk past life feat, which increases your unarmed damage by a die step, which is really great.
From a d6 to a d8. And then there is the Jid's Tekka.
There's a couple of different items that will also increase your die.
Yeah.
That's not the only one. There's several others as well.
The Garment of Equilibrium is another one.
Yeah. There's also with unarmed. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Oh, there's an epic feat that also gives you extra damage. I think boosts your die step with key weapons. There's also Vorpal Strikes, which turns your I think unarmed attacks into 1 slashing attacks, which can be really helpful, and also gives you Vorpaling effect on them as well.
Yeah. There's a note here in the wiki for a quick correction here. Items that used to increase your die step damage now augment your unarmed strike by an additional half a weapon die. So from 1.5 d6 to 2d6.
I also want to back up really quick. We mentioned it, perfect two-weapon fighting. There's also perfect two-handed fighting and perfect single-weapon fighting that we didn't mention, that are epic destiny feats that you can get at 26 and 28. Make sure we mention those, even though we missed it while we're talking about those specifically. Anyways, back to unarmed. I don't know, is there anything else we should cover with unarmed? It's very similar to two-weapon fighting. If you're not a monk, you're probably not going to care that much about it. You're just not going to get very far. I would mention,
hand wraps. When you equip a hand wrap, that's still considered unarmed, obviously.
Right. There are several wraps that kind of have a hidden effect of increasing your damage die. So it can be really helpful to have your inventory expanded window open where it shows you how much damage you're doing. That can be a really good way, because the hand wraps don't actually tell you how much damage they're going to do. It's based on you, the character. It's a little weird in that regard. And let's see. That mostly covers unarmed.
And if you're a non-monk with the attacking unarmed, you're going to attack a lot slower than a monk would.
It looks a lot less, a lot less dangerous too. It's kind of a punch kick. Whereas monks are doing backflips and spin roundhouse kicks and stuff like that. So they're a lot more effective at it.
Yep.
Let's see, wild shaping. So this is unique to druids, but I want to talk about it because it is a weapon style, even though it's kind of a weird one. It's going to take some of the stuff from the other ones. Like unarmed, wild shaping is considered blunt, even though you're not doing just blunt damage. So you need improved critical bludgeoning to benefit for that while you're in wild shape form. There's a feat called I think it's Natural Strike.
Natural fighting.
Natural fighting, which increases your double strike. This is probably, of all the things we're going to talk about, this one's probably going to change whenever they do a Druid Pass. I think it's like, what, 3% double strike? You can take
6%,
it 3 times.
6% double strike for each time you take it up to 3 times.
Right. It also requires Druid level 7, I believe. So
9.
9?
Yeah, that's what it says here in the wiki.
Right. It requires a higher level of Druid.
Yeah.
So be aware of that.
So that's level 9, level 12, and level 15. That's, if you're a Druid, that is a significant portion of your feats.
Yeah, so if you're going to go this direction, you want to make sure that you're really planning for that. The feats are okay. There have been comments by the devs that they'll probably make them a little more desirable. Yes, please. And I would say, plan when you're going to take those feats. If you've been following DDOCast Splat, I think I was talking about this off the air, but because I'm doing a fighter splash with Druid, and because of that, I kind of messed up the feats a little bit and when I can take those natural attack feats. So it's kind of a bit of an unfortunate circumstance there.
Yeah, you probably want to do the first 9 levels as a Druid if you want to get the natural fighting feat as soon as you can, and then take a 3 or 4 levels of fighter to get the extra bonus feats.
Exactly. So be aware of that. Again, they work a lot like unarmed in the fact that improved critical bludgeoning is the feat you want to take here. If you want to take any of the weapon focus lines, again, bludgeoning is where you're going. They do also benefit if you are wearing a shield and a sword in your main hand. Even though you're wild shape, you can still benefit from the shield mastery feats as well. So that's another option as well. This is the direction I'm actually taking that Splat character, and the direction I'm going to take my Druid on my main server. And obviously there's enhancements that do some extra stuff with wild shaping as well.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about mixing Druid levels and Monk levels here?
Oh dear. Briefly.
I guess briefly. As we discussed earlier with unarmed fighting, the damage that monks do unarmed fighting is based upon their level. So if you have monk levels and Druid levels and you wild shape into your animal form, the unarmed damage or your animal form damage die is equal to your monk unarmed damage die.
It's whichever one is greater, basically.
Yeah.
I think the monk past life feat also will affect that. I'm trying to remember if you have to be centered for that to work, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I should find that out before I reincarnate my Druid.
Yeah, and if you're a monk and Druid in animal form, the 2-weapon fighting line does not affect your attacks in your animal form.
Right.
Even though it would affect you in human form.
Yeah, does not work for wild shape.
Yep.
All right.
And you can use monk stances while in animal form as long as you're centered.
Correct. My experience, though, is having played a monk splash Druid, they are not very survivable. PRR, the way the game works now, they don't have much in the way of PRR, and they get pretty smacked around.
Yeah.
Skunk City actually had a good point here in the chat, testing builds on Lomania to double check what to take for multiclassing, which is a great tip. And some of the feats don't exactly give great feedback on whether or not they're working. The monk die step would, but
yeah. What I always do is I pull up Ron's character planner, which, by the way, there's a new version out. that people should download if they use that. It's 4.24.01.
It added Harper Tree, I believe.
Yeah. So I always build my character in Ron's character planner, and I also pull up a copy of the DDO wiki just to verify the feat requirements. So whether it's I need a certain number of ranks and balance for single weapon fighting or the base attack bonuses for all of them. I just want to make sure that I have the correct numbers because there has been some discrepancies in the character planner.
Yeah, the drawer that I'm making on live is running in. I mentioned the natural attack being problematic. He's also was trying to plan when to take that fighter level to take improved critical and or improved shield mastery, which both have a +8 base attack bonus requirement. So it's safe to say that I didn't plan him as well as I could have, and his feats will show for it in the end. But it's good because now I know when I make him a main character on my main server, I can fix that. All right, throwing, and this is one that I have not done much of. I've always kind of wanted to make a thrower, I just never have.
Not too long ago, throwing builds were the flavor of the quarter.
Yeah, the shuriken build was running around a lot for a while, and then swashbuckling. You saw a lot of bard splash, bard wizard splash throwers, which was kind of interesting.
And then combining that with Sharati, Epic Destiny.
Well, actually, I should mention I'll talk about throwing. Wild Shape has a really strange interaction with throwing. You can Wild Shape with throwing weapons. It doesn't actually throw them, so it doesn't consume them. Or at least it doesn't it doesn't for the sun flasks, which is great.
I was going to say, pro tip: the sun flasks. If you want to beat up undead while in animal form,
and oozes,
yeah.
It's especially at lower levels. It's insanely overpowered. It's pretty funny. But back to throwing weapons. So the feats for throwing are a little. If you haven't really looked at it and done the research, you're probably going to miss a few. So quick draw is one, which affects how fast you can draw a thrown weapon. So that increases your attack speed with throwing weapons. Rapid shot also increases your attack speed with throwing weapons. I think I missed
Brutal throw uses your strength instead of your dexterity.
Throwing weapons specifically a little weird because they use your dex to hit normally, and then normally you use your strength for damage. So that's something worth knowing. I'm trying to think. If you're using shurikens, shuriken expertise is pretty much a must-have, which gives you extra chance for throwing extra shurikens based on your dexterity score. And also 10,000 stars is probably going to be a benefit for you if you're using shurikens. It's probably worth noting that drow and monks both... that's all right. Drow get shuriken expertise for free.
Yep,
which
and
is why
monks can take it as a class bonus feat.
Right.
I
remember rapid
quick draw, rapid reload, and rapid shot.
Does rapid reload work for throwers? That was the one I didn't remember.
No, it doesn't. It just affects crossbows, specifically non-repeating crossbows.
It doesn't affect repeating crossbows? I thought it did.
I don't think it does.
I think it does. I think it's... I'll look it up, but I'm pretty sure it does. Because I think the way that works is it's your reload time. So... Well, I'm not entirely sure, because they changed how crossbow reloads work. Because now they're kind of part of the whole animation. It's all one thing. So I'm not entirely sure how that all works together. But it is, that's kind of, I'm not sure what the new version of that is, but.
Does precise shot work with thrown weapons?
So we're going to talk about range. The last one we're going to talk about all range. So precise shot, improved precise shot, point blank shot. These are all things that work with all ranged weapons, whatever they may be. Um, shot on the run also, although you don't ever see anyone taking shot on the run. There's also a melee version, spring attack. I generally don't see a lot of people take that. You have to take dodge and mobility.
Well, the nice thing about spring attack versus shot on the run, well, the whole whirlwind attack line, with the exception of combat expertise for melee weapons, dodge, mobility, spring attack, and whirlwind attack all give you a bonus to dodge, to your dodge score.
Mobilities is free because it also increases your maximum dexterity bonus. So it gives you the extra max dex bonus you need to use the dodge it gives you.
Right.
But having said that, I don't see a lot of people go past dodge. And generally, people are only taking dodge if they can't find something else to stick in that fleet slot.
I've been trying to take the whole line on my swashbuckler builds, 16 bard, 4 fighters, in the skirmisher mode to strictly make use of the maximum dodge, getting upwards of like 30% without any short-term bonuses.
Yeah, if you're really going for it, you can get up there, but generally speaking, most characters aren't really going to go for that. Again, shot on the run and spring attack are negating the primary features that they negate the penalty of attack roll for while moving. And generally speaking, you don't have a lot of problems hitting things, so I think there's better feats.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about them is in DDO versus other MMOs, the game's designed for you not to stand still and just trade blows for blows with the monster you're fighting.
Yeah.
It's designed to allow you to move around and try to get the best angle on the monster, particularly casters and archers who have to turn around to attack you.
So going back to the throwing weapons and range in general. So we mentioned improved precise shot, point blank shot. The other one I want to mention, just as a general thing for ranged builds, is precision. We talked about this when we were talking about crossbows a couple weeks ago. Precision and power attack are on the same offensive stance channel, so you can only have one active at a time. With precision, so power attack gives you more damage. Precision gives you reduces fortification against your target by 25%. With the exception of a tier 5 swashbuckling enhancement, which gives you the power attack damage while using precision, most melees are going to go for power attack because it's more damage. And in truth, fortification affects a small number of monsters, generally speaking, whereas power attacks can hit everything. But ranged, you can't take power attack, or you could. It's just not going to do any damage, any extra damage, because it's specific to melee weapons, right? Precision will work with ranged weapons, so you can get that extra fortification reduction, which can be really beneficial for you.
Yeah, so it's plus 5% to hit and reduces it by 25% fortification.
Yep.
Which is great because there are a lot of monsters that have 100% fortification. You can now crit them.
There's actually very few monsters that have, quote, 100% fortification. Even like most bosses are going to have at most 80%. There are monsters that can normally not be critically hit. Like undead and constructs that have really high fortification. I think it's actually higher than 100%. But
those are usually like in the 1,000% range or something like that.
They're not quite that high. You can definitely get them down to where you can actually hit them. But it's worth knowing. You will occasionally get, but I don't. In my experience, I haven't tested it thoroughly, but in my experience, you're not getting a 25% extra chance to critically hit undead with that feat.
Yeah, the important thing is to note that monsters that you can critically hit, you're going to notice your critical hits significantly increase if you're using precision, because you're going to get that significant extra reduction in their fortification.
I'd say raid bosses and epic bosses are really notice it more. Things that generally actually have fortification, Warforged too. But most heroic mobs don't really have very much in the way of fortification anyway. So, But you can take it.
Yeah. Then there's also the improved precise shot feat, which is pretty sweet if you can, um, especially if you're kiting or you can somehow position yourself to line up a whole bunch of monsters. You can hit every single one of them in the path of that missile weapon.
Yeah, precise shot makes it so that another monster doesn't block your shot. You can shoot through other monsters. Improved precise shot means that anytime you shoot through a monster, you damage the monster as though you shot it. So it's a really good option here. The last thing I want to mention with throwing before we move on to bows and crossbows is, if you don't know, if you get a spell-touched thrower out of the Evening Star challenges, they have a chance to shoot twice, or they do shoot twice. I don't remember what exactly it is, but they shoot extra times. So if you're really committing to a thrower, if you can get, they're random generated, so it can be kind of tough, but if you get a really nice thrower, spell touch can be really great because you're essentially firing twice at least some of the time. I think it might be all the time, but I'm not entirely positive on that. So let's talk about bows. So the thing with bows, again, you're going to take a lot of the same feats for throwing. You don't need to take quick draw. I think quick draw only works with throwing weapons, but you're going to want to take rapid reload, not rapid reload, rapid shot, and you're going to take precise shot, improved precise shot. You're probably also going to want to take bow strength, which allows your strength bonus to damage applied to longbows and shortbows. Rangers get a lot of this stuff for free.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think there's too many of these feats that Rangers don't point.
I'm trying to remember if they get rapid shot. I think they get rapid shot at level 2, but I'm not positive on that. But yes, you can get a lot of those feats. The other one you're going to be looking at getting is money shot. Again, Rangers get this for free at level 6. And that allows you to, for a short period of time, shoot extra arrows based on your base attack bonus. You can get up to 4 arrows at a time. There's a penalty to hit, but again, penalties to hit aren't generally that big of a
There's
thing.
also a 100% double shot penalty for the next 70 seconds after many shot wears
60.
off.
I don't think that's correct. I think it's 60.
I don't know, it's about a minute.
Yeah, I mean it's got a 2-minute cooldown, so I mean your double shot penalty is going to be pretty significant. So if you are going to use many shot a lot, don't invest a lot in double shot, because it's probably not going to be that beneficial for you. Because half the time you're going to have no double shot essentially.
Yeah,
I've kind of personally have advocated a few times on the show that they change that so that it's a stack, like a 10 stack of 10% each stack. So over time it becomes less and less.
Yeah.
I think functionally though that probably won't actually make that big of a difference. They did that because many shot is kind of overpowered just on paper of how it works. They didn't change how it works. They just gave it the double shot penalty.
Yeah.
Which if you ignore double shot doesn't really matter. So there you go. But it's a huge burst, a huge burst in damage. Particularly if you get that improved precise shot and you get a nice string of monsters, you can go down. I think it's pretty much. I mean, it's pretty similar to thrown weapons. The only difference is quick draw doesn't actually benefit you.
Yeah, it's rapid reload instead of quick draw. That's really what you're
bow
doing.
Strength is kind of the other one.
Yeah, there's also Zen Archery, I guess, is the last one
That's a good one
to talk about for range. You use your wisdom instead of your dexterity to hit.
Yeah, for longbows, and you also get longbows and short bows as if they were key weapons. So all the monk turrets you see running around are going to use this, which also lets you use 10k stars with a bow as well, if you have this feat. So you can kind of gang up the mini shot and 10k star and really go to town. It's what you see a lot of monk turrets taking advantage of. All right, crossbows. The last one, and we talked a little bit more in depth about this when we did crossbow builds. But instead of taking actually rapid shot, I believe still works on crossbows. It works on everything. So you're still going to take rapid shot. You're also going to want to take rapid reload, which Artificers get rapid reload automatically, I believe. Double check that.
One of them, I believe.
Yeah, I think they get rapid reload. Yeah, I'm not positive, but rapid reload, rapid shot. You don't need quick draw. There's no strength feat for this one like there was with bows and throwing. So it's kind of a lot of the same stuff. There's fewer features. If you're going to use repeaters, you have to be proficient, or you're going to want to be proficient with them. The one thing to know with repeaters, if you are not proficient with a repeater and they're exotic weapons, then you treat them like a normal crossbow and only shoot once at a time. So it's kind of worth.
Do you still have a penalty to hit?
Probably.
Or is it still just or is it just
I think it's
considered a crossbow?
If you use a weapon that you're not proficient with, you get -4 to hit. So I think that's still, I'm almost positive that still applies.
Yeah. If I'm going to use a repeater, I'm going to take the feat or take the appropriate levels in artificer or rogue mechanic.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty easy to do there. And of course, there's great crossbows, which again are another exotic weapon. Other than there's funny thing with crossbows, right? Crossbow, like the simple crossbows, the light and heavy crossbows, like everyone in the game is proficient with those. But great crossbows and repeating crossbows are exotic weapons.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're an artificer, you get them all for free. And then the rogue mechanic, as they level up in mechanic, they get those for free as well.
Right. The cool thing about Grace crossbows, and it's a relatively new addition, is there's an ability somewhere, and I don't remember if it's in the artificer line or if it's the feat itself or it's a mechanic thing, but they have a knockdown percent chance.
I think it's just great crossbows on a vorpal knock stuff down.
Yeah, I think you may be correct. I don't remember exactly where, but that sounds about right. But which is a really cool ability.
The one thing I want to say with crossbows, if you're building for crossbows, particularly if you're probably already going to you're going to take point blank shot because you need to take precise shot, and it does extra damage. You're going to need rapid shot because you want to attack faster. If you have the feats, consider just taking many shot and carrying up a couple of bows. You'd be surprised at actually how much more effective that makes your DPS. Again, you have to deal with double shot penalty, but if you're not investing in double shot anyways, you can actually get a little bang for your buck out of that.
Yeah.
And we should also mention, because we've been mentioning them as well, there is an epic feat for ranged, and it's combat archery, which increases your range damage by +1 weapon. So it's a great one, and I think they fixed all the problems that were going on with it. So
and that's actually a pretty significant boost to ranged attacks.
Yeah, I mean you get that plus the plus from precise shot. Yeah, you can get some really great stuff going on there. Should also mention too, it's newer, but precise shot gives you a toggleable feat. It's on the same channel as improved precise shot. With Archer's Focus, but if you stand still, you get Archer's Focus, and when you hit things, your percentage of damage goes up. So you can end up doing just basic, on the basic version, you can do an extra 15% damage, provided you keep stacking, provided you don't move, and are not using many shot. But you can, if you move or use mini shot, the bonus will still apply until it ticks all the way down from 15. I think it's like every 5 or 6 seconds. So if you're in a boss fight and you don't need to move around, you can turn that on, stand still, and get a little extra damage out of it.
Yeah. The nice thing about throw builds, bow builds, or crossbow builds is the ability to kite monsters. Which is when you just kind of run backwards or run around in circles and just plink at them from range as they try to run up to you and hit you. You just keep running away.
Yep.
In which case, the shot on the run feat may come in handy, but as Patrick mentioned earlier, generally speaking, you're not going to have too hard of a time hitting the monster.
if you're taking those feats to increase your to hit ability, you might consider some other things about your build. Just saying.
Right.
I mean, there are some instances. Some rare monsters have really high AC, and it's a little problematic. But I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's a somewhat brief considering for each one. I mean, we talked about it for an hour. But there you go. There's different weapon styles in the game. Some tips to get you started. If you want to correct something that we said wrong, there are a few points where we. I mean, this is a very broad subject, so we're a little less than encyclopedically knowledgeable about all of them.
Yeah.
So if you have a correction, please share it in the comments or send me an email. That's great. Love that. Help each other out. Like making sure we give correct information as best as we can. We're going to get to game news. We're going to start by talking about Update 26. Warlock's Legacy has been released. There were a couple of things that were in the release notes that were not. We haven't shared before, so we're going to cover some of those. Basically, Eldritch Blast will. It was not communicated horribly well, but there's an Eldritch Blast focus scales with 150% spell power. That's the note. I believe, based on what I haven't made a Warlock yet, but my understanding was it's an auto grant at level 1. So Eldritch Blast. Or your Eldritch Blast stuff is just going to scale with 150% of spell power. Like that was what I took from that. Is that kind of what you got out of that?
Yeah, I haven't really fully understood the whole scaling with the spell range or melee power math. Only because I haven't really put a whole lot of effort into figuring out how it all works. But that sounds about right.
Yeah, there's some funny stuff going on there. And again, I haven't made one for a while. I haven't made a new Warlock yet. But there's also several monsters for monster manuals. The numbers required to complete some hunter deeds were lowered, including Elf, which dropped by 15, Halfling by half. Mephit was lowered a little bit. Skeleton was lowered by 25%. Troglodyte, Warforged, Wraith, and Zombie were all also lowered.
These are the number of unique types of monsters
for the hunter that you have to find.
Yeah.
Which are the unique ones.
So that's different types of monster of the same monster, essentially. Kobold Sneak versus Kobold Shaman, for instance.
Some of the known issues that I wanted to make sure that we mention here. If you continuously fire Eldritch Blast projectiles, the vertical angle sometimes does not update as quickly as the player can target. Arcane Spell Failure incorrectly fails to apply to the basic attack forms of Eldritch Blast. Enjoy that while it lasts. Let's see, the cone and the chain visual effects are not. They either don't. For the cone, the affected area doesn't match. The chain, it doesn't fully represent active packed feats. Let's see. Warlock attacks are sometimes not visible to other players, which is kind of a funny one.
Yep.
Let's see. Anything? I think those are kind of the big ones there.
Well, the big thing right now, too, with Warlocks, I've seen a couple of threads on this. It's been on the Twitter feeds. The packs and the alignment restrictions. I think Jeff Hanna wrote a blog about this yesterday or today. I want to say it was this morning, or maybe it might have been last night.
The short version is that you have to pick the feat and
your packed feat.
Yeah, your packed feat.
Your Fey, Old One, or
Fiend.
Or Fiend, the demonic one.
The Old One and the Fiend have alignment restrictions, but they don't prevent you from taking the wrong alignment, which I guess makes it so you can't use the packed part of your Eldritch Blast. That was what I kind of gathered. Again, I haven't rolled one, so I didn't exactly.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Jeff made it sound like you picked the packed first and then your alignment, but
yeah, you do pick the because you pick the packs during your feat choosing.
Yeah, and then your alignment's the last thing with your name at the end there.
So I kind of took from that there basically there's some issues with alignments and Warlocks. So there's a couple of things. One is they're looking into possible changes for the feat requirements based on your feedback or player feedback, possibly up to and including simply removing the alignment requirements, which is something that they wanted them to have alignment requirements, but they were kind of always open to them not, depending on if they get it to work. It sounds like there's some challenges.
Yeah.
Also, you can get one free alignment change of any type once per account with the code Warlock without the A, WRLOCK.
And
use that through July 5th. It may get expanded further than that, but
yep. And you don't have to be a warlock to use that feat.
correct. To use the code there.
No code, yeah, coupon feat, whatever.
So that's it's kind of nice. Good short-term fix. They're also looking to replacing the sound for Eldritch Chain. And that was kind of most of the news of Update 26. I don't know if there's anything you want to mention for Update 26.
Well, if you're not are warlocks free for VIPs, or do you have to purchase them? I think they're free for VIPs, but if not, then it's 1,395 turbine points to unlock the warlock class across your account.
I was actually kind of half expecting them to be part of the gatekeeper favor or something, but
yeah,
I don't have any more gatekeeper quests yet. So,
right.
And I'm fine with it being free for VIPs. It's great. There was a question about wanting more iconic races, and Cordovan kind of gave some response to that. It said, ultimately, if the community as a whole provided the devs with feedback that they would prefer we focus on making new iconics rather than, say, new classes, races, or systems, like enhancements, epic destinies, crafting, and other such things, then they would certainly listen to that feedback when it came to decide what they want us to, or what folks want us to work on. He doesn't think that they've really seen that in terms of feedback, but it's always something that are open to considering. So if you want more iconics, give feedback that says you want more iconics.
I would personally just prefer Vet Status 3, which lets you start at 14 or 15.
I'm kind of indifferent.
I just don't like, the thing about the iconic classes for me is they're not necessarily, the class and the concept of the character aren't necessarily in line. For instance, Blageford or Paladins, which I guess kind of makes sense to a point, but Purple Dragon Knights are kind of like, to me, are Paladins in Forgotten Realms. That's just the way they kind of read and their flavor to them. They start with a fighter level. So there's a little bit of discontinuity, to me anyway, on the class of the iconic and the kind of theme that the iconic character is built around.
Yeah, that makes sense. My biggest thing with it was that, if you can do iconic characters, where's the Dwarven Defender?
Yeah.
And that was the one that I always felt like it was missing. But
yeah, and I just
you can make a Dwarven Defender easily enough anyways, though, so it's not a big deal.
Right, but you can't make a Dwarven Defender and start him at level 15 to join your friends who've been playing for a while when you come back after a long absence.
I think it would be nice if we had one for each race. I think there are things I would rather see than that, so I'm not really concerned about it.
Yeah, and I just think it'd be easier to implement Vet Status 3 than a brand new iconic.
Yeah, I don't think very many people would really argue with that. Well, the one thing with the iconics is you can use that with a reincarnation. You wouldn't be able to use Vet Status 3 with a reincarnation. But
right.
Cordovan also wrote that to pull back the curtain a bit, game development is always a matter of managing limited resources. Even if those resources are extensive, there's always more would-be-cool ifs than there are available work hours. Ultimately, they have to decide what to prioritize based on numerous factors, including community sentiment, financial concerns, retention efforts, new player acquisition, making sure we're letting our developers exercise their best skills, competitive factors, and so on. Community desire is clearly one of the top priorities, but it's rare that there's one top priority. It's far more likely that there are a cluster of priorities a particular development effort will address, and it gets pushed to the top of the list because of it. There you go. Bugs. So Warlock's Burning Blood spell-like ability is broken and is not working correctly. Also, there is I guess it's been going on for a while, but I don't think I've mentioned on the show. Dazing, the bonuses for dazing, which is supposed to apply to stun, is apparently applying its bonuses to trip instead. Which
Oops.
is kind of odd from the standpoint that I feel like on my two stunning characters, my monk and my druid that is half monk, I feel like putting that on actually makes it more effective. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. It's kind of a funny one there. Bonus days, plus 50% challenge rewards and plus 30% crafting XP through Sunday, June 21st. Also, we have been mentioning and reporting that Galanda has had very sad days of late. It looks like those are hopefully behind them. There's some work that apparently has been very effective. For Galanda only, through July 5th, you lucky folks will get 10% extra XP, plus 1 to loot, and double Mysterious Remnant boosts. Well, it's twice the chance for remnants to drop when killing a champion. So
that's basically 2 weeks from Father's Day this week, the 21st.
Sure. It's a pretty long, nice bonus addition. So, and that's in addition to the bonus days, too. So it's kind of Turbine's way of saying, sorry.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's a pretty good bonus there. I'm sure people maybe wanted more, but there's some people that said thank you, but we're not sure if this is going to revitalize the server, which apparently got hit pretty hard. Store news, new items. So the Warlock, as you mentioned, is on sale for $13.95 Turbine points. There's also 2 new shared bank storage packs. So you get an additional 20 slots to your shared bank. They cost 995 Turbine points each. I'm waiting for the sales. That's just me.
And just to be clear, too, so people don't think it's 20 and 20, it's 10 extra storage slots for each of those purchases.
2. Yep.
Yeah.
Which I think means you can get up to 120 slots now.
120, yeah. VIPs have 20 for free for being VIP, or there's an extra 2 that you can buy if you're premium.
I think these days that's probably one of the things that when they come out with that I act like as soon as it's on sale, the first time it's on sale, boom, I'm grabbing it.
I just buy it as soon as it comes out because 1, I always need the storage, and 2, I want to encourage them to add more storage. But what I don't understand is why are they only adding 10 shared item slots per increment of this, but they add 250 extra slots per shared bag deposit box.
Well, the bag deposit box has a lot of things that can go in it, for starters.
As if I don't have a lot of XP gems for my daily dice or all the cool loot that I want to put in my storage so I pass around between my characters. Come on.
Well, hey, if you don't want the extra shared bank storage, I mean, I'm sure they could use the time run other things, but I'm guessing you probably want some.
Yeah. Need more shared bank, not necessarily thousands of bag deposit box.
Yeah. Let's see. Sales for the week. 20% off of adventure packs and 20% off of quest XP elixirs, and that will run through June 25th, I think it was.
Yeah, and that's all adventure packs, too. It's not just select packs.
So if you've been waiting to buy that one pack until it went on sale,
it's on sale.
Yeah. If you find one that's not on sale, let Talura know, and she will probably throw her hands up in the air and say, "What is going on?" and she'll go and fix it, which they already did with Reign of Madness. You can also get 20% off of Quest XP elixirs if you're waiting to get some of those. And the freebie for the week, Gold Seal Elixir of Moderate Healing times 10 with the code WHEAL, once per account. 147th Chronicle. Community Spotlights. The character planner has been updated with Vanguard and Harper Agent, as you were mentioning before. The Shady Rogues went to Chanticleer, and Even Note drew a Beholder, sniffing flowers. I think that was eating more than sniffing. The Heroes of Hiddenfolk are hosting a trivia event at the Anvil Fire Inn on June 27th at 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Does not say the server. I think it's Galanda, but I'm not positive on that. See, Makar DDO's 10-week challenge continues with challenges, the Evening Star challenges, which I will probably put far less effort into the ones that previously. I did not complete Terminal Delirium, mostly because I couldn't. My craft, we've kind of got to the point where we're outside my crafting skills. I never really invested heavily in crafting, and I couldn't find and disable the traps in Balloon. And every time I could get through the balloon traps, I got killed in the mirror room. And if I completed the mirror room, then I get killed in the balloon traps. And I just kind of just got to the point where I was confident that with perhaps a little more preparation and effort in certain areas, I would actually be able to do it. And I was kind of behind far enough anyways that I'm not really going to be able to catch up score-wise. So I will keep doing it, but it's kind of just for myself at this point. It's kind of the way it worked.
I just haven't had the time to do any of his challenges. I really wanted to, but
I've spent too much time on them, which is kind of why I kind of got to this point. I did, I feel confident that if I could get the timing right in balloons, I would actually do it, and I've done it. But it's kind of tricky, some of that, and if there was a camera in my room for that time, you would have seen very much disputing of the range of some of those traps, in my experience. But there you go. The High Lords of Malkir on Solana are hosting a Reaver's Fate and Fallout 2 teaching raid this Saturday. That might be their last one for a while. I'm not positive on that. I know he mentioned.
I hope not, because those guys are awesome.
He mentioned a few weeks ago that they weren't going to be doing teaching raids for a while. I think for the summer. And I think this would be the week that would be the last one. I'm not positive on that, but the guild for the week, Heroes of Scarabray, our small Shalona-based guild looking for people who want to have relaxed fun, looking for players of all skill levels. The Chronicle comment: who or what would you make a pact with if you were a warlock? Any clever thoughts there?
Some that may not be appropriate for a more family-oriented show.
Fair enough. Someone with lots of money, so we can go shopping a lot, buy lots of shiny gear. That's the best I got. Let's see, Fansite news. We got a shout out for our episode on challenges last week with Jerry, Jeff, and Lessa. And Jeff wrote a very nice post about it, actually. And thank you for the kind words in my direction from that. DDO Players News jumped off a moving airship with their 36th episode. Ginger Spice was looking at Lord of Blades, House of Death Undone, and Spellpoint Regeneration on his videos. DDO Gamer looked at a cuddly gift. Your DDO is live every Friday night on Twitch with the show The Dirty Kobold. Let's see, the Ordo Cycletica was looking at Zen Mastery, and Edric was looking at the Will-O-Wisp blog post. Dungeon Raider was also starting a new work of fiction, The Journals of Tierney Hoaklander, kind of chronicling that particular character's journey through Stormreach.
Yeah, and the DDO Players, specifically Draculetta, just did, well, I guess with Lessa, did a kind of Ask the Devs feature yesterday with Jerry and Steelstar and
which I think
a couple
they're going
other
to
devs.
replay on Monday during their normal time as well. So I assume that will be their 38th episode. They also had the 37th episode, which just came out earlier this week. Again, they've got a weird timing thing with the Chronicle.
Yep,
they
keep
up
up the good work, guys.
Yeah, they're doing great. They record the day before the Chronicle comes out, but they don't usually finish editing and posting the show until after the Chronicle comes out. So it's kind of a weird time delay thing. They also had a poll up for have you pulled a named item from Temple of Elemental Evil.
Yeah, Dracula is kind of pissed off about his drop rate and his RNG.
That's how it works sometimes. DDOCast news. So I'm excited to announce this. Been hinting that this was coming. Our summer scavenger hunt extravaganza. We'll link to this in the show notes. Posted on the forums. Basically, take pictures of you meeting certain tasks, and you can win some prizes. What kind of prizes, you might ask? Turbine was very generous and gave something like 11,000 Turbine points for me to give away for this, including a 5,000 point code for one lucky winner. I also, thanks to the generosity of the show listeners, am also providing 2 autos boxes and some astral shards for guilds that compete as a guild. So link to this, you can go look at the whole list. There's a lot of people that are really excited about it and already participating. And someone already got a screenshot of 55 soulstones, which was considerably higher than what I figured was actually what you could achieve. So I'm pretty impressed with what people are coming up with. It's kind of got a wide variety of different things. There's some social stuff like get with your friends and take a picture doing certain things. There's also go find some stuff in the world like falls. There's also some questing stuff. So if you prefer to do some questing stuff, there's doing some speed runs or doing some similar to Makar's challenges. Complete quests in as high as difficulty with as low level characters as you can will get you points. There's no requirement that you do them on high difficulties and low levels, but you get more points for that. But there's been a lot of really good buzz from the community, and people seem to be enjoying it, so I'm happy that is going well. And I get to give away a lot of points, which is pretty awesome. So enjoy that. Have fun with that. I know you retweeted that. Are you going to do that?
I'm going to try. It's just a question of whether or not I can find enough time to get in game to do some of these, let alone all of them.
Yeah, it's quite an extensive list. I'm sure a few people will get all of them. It's not necessarily intended that you would get all of them. The way the prizes are working for this, just so people don't get kind of scared here, there's different ways that I'm giving away prizes. The 5,000 turbine point code is going to be 1 entry per person over 30 points, which is really not that hard to do. Take a little bit of effort, but it's not too hard to do. And then one of the autos boxes is going 1 entry per person as well. And see, I think there was 10 500 turbine point codes are going to 1 entry per person over, and some of those are over 15 points. So again, not too difficult to achieve. Other stuff is going based on points. So the highest point getter is going to get a code. Is guaranteed to get at least 2,500 points. The second place is guaranteed to get at least 1,500 points. But I've also got some 2,500 and 1,500 point packages to give away to random winners, 1 entry per point. So
you said when you said like the autos box, 1 entry per person. So as long as say for myself, I make 1 entry for any one of these.
Well, so you have to get at least 15 points.
Oh, 15 points, okay, which doesn't look like it's too terribly hard.
No, it's not. And it was intentionally this was intentionally crafted to be inclusive so that lots of people could participate. But at the same time, so some prizes are if you enter and meet the minimum point requirement, which the highest one is 30 points. If you put in 30 points, you'll have the same chance of winning that 5,000 turbine point code as someone who gets 300 points, which I now believe is actually possible, based on some of what I've seen already. But there's also there's some stuff that you can win. You're on the same chance as anyone else who enters as long as you put in 30 points. There's other ones other prizes that are. It's 1 entry per point. So the more points you get, the more likely you are to win those prizes.
Okay.
But I wanted it to be inclusive. I wanted a lot of people to be able to participate, even if you don't have a lot of time. I tried to pick things that were varying tasks. So like some of them are run quests fast, some of them are complete quests on difficult levels. Some are just go out and find stuff. So you can do a lot of that stuff as well. So there's a lot of different ways of doing points.
I like the entry on here, photobomb a live stream.
Yeah, another one I put on there too.
Well, speaking of which, we have a live stream on Tuesday, don't we?
DDOCast, yeah, will be on Tuesday for the foreseeable future. It seems to be a good day for most everyone most weeks, so we'll keep doing that as well. So check out the scavenger hunt, participate, have some fun with it. A couple of my gillies are beside themselves, having a blast doing it. There's a lot of fun stuff to do with people, quests. There was one of them is complete Temple of Deathworm in 40 minutes. We ran as a guild Deathworm and completed it in 39 minutes and 44 seconds.
So it's totally possible.
It was easily possible. I knew it was possible. Those times, the speedrun times are meant to be challenging but doable by the average person. Now you might need some help. I think Blockade Buster was 5 minutes. You might need help to do that.
Yeah,
it's doable.
A 5-minute Blockade Buster is basically
3 people, 3 directions.
Yeah, I was gonna say one group of people per boat.
Yeah, it's not meant to. It's meant to be easily accessible for the casual player, but also there's incentives for people to really challenge themselves and go nuts and get lots of points. So there you go. Check that out. Have some fun. Good luck on winning some prizes. I'm just trying to give away as much as I can. So let's see. Lightning Post. There were some comments regarding challenges. Cardovan posted in response to some people's questions. They do not have current plans to further expand House Canada challenges up to challenge rating 30. They are aware of the challenge players face in getting the ingredients for base items while running their epic level characters. As we mentioned on the show, a conversion recipe would have to be prioritized as we do other bugs and features, but would certainly insist in addressing those issues. Warlock mentioned that to get base materials, he usually just creates a veteran or veteran 2 iconic farmer just for running the challenges. They usually wipe the floor with challenges to get lots of mats, which is a great way to do it. It's not as easy as converting, but it's personally more fun, is what he said. And then Horatio also posted that there was a mistake. Gasp, we made a mistake. Thank you for correcting. I'm not trying to harp on him, but some people don't realize that we make mistakes. But Horatio was kind enough to point out that we were mistaken. Everyone just gets one single token per day. It's not based on what level or what your payment status is. He also mentioned that the Great Axe of Fire is an awesome weapon for the golf bag because if you make a level 16 version and put a Masterful Shard along with Righteousness on it, it covers DR breaking of 99% of the game with Metaline and Righteousness, which I think is on. I think that's what it has on its epic version, but I'm not positive on that. One weapon is a super solid thing for low effort, considering, which is a good point.
Yeah.
Let's see. Survey question for the week. Let's see. I'm going to pick one out here. I haven't picked this. Usually I pick these out beforehand, but I didn't pick one out before. We're going to. This comes from Dream on Galanda. What do you think is the strongest class? Any thoughts?
Dev. No, I would say probably a Shirati caster.
This is my kind of general sense on some of these things. What is the strongest class? Well, what are you doing, first of all? There's
no right answer or wrong answer.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that this kind of plays out, but, generally speaking, there's going to be something that a character is not going to be overly great at doing in response to that. However, what I think is strongest right now, now I would say probably something along the lines of a 12 Warlock, 5 Bard, 2 Fighter, or something like that. I've seen a couple of those running around and have heard that they're doing really well. But I would probably say either a swashbuckling Bard or a sword and board fighter or paladin would kind of be where I would generally lean these days.
Yeah, I think I would lean more towards the paladin over the fighter because of the self-healing capabilities.
Yeah, and that's why I generally find this Astrati casters lacking a little bit.
Yeah, unless they're a Warforge.
Yeah.
To me, when someone asks me what you mean by strongest character, I would say somebody who can basically take care of themselves while dishing out some good mob destruction.
Yeah. So let's see. We're gonna close out the show here. Is there anything you wanna plug? I know you have a blog, though you don't generally use it as much.
Yeah, I mean, every now and then I do write something up on DDO Gamer. Haven't written anything in a while, mostly because I haven't really found anything interesting to write about. At least not since I started playing Permadeath. I should probably write a couple more blogs about that experience. So if there's something you'd like to hear me ramble on about, please shoot me a Twitter or message on the forums.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show. I guess we can plug DDOCast Splat here again. Next Tuesday, we'll be doing that. Before I forget, Skunk City wrote in the comments, we were talking about iconic shoulder. He said that a gnome arty would be the bomb. Gnome iconic artificer. Although it would be fun. I don't think we're gonna. You gotta get gnomes first, but I feel like a gnome wizard would be more iconic, personally. But that's just me.
Well, I mean, if you go to Eberron, the gnomes run House Cannith, or heavily involved in House Cannith.
I think a gnome arty would be a solid second choice, but I think and there's not actually an iconic caster right now either. So, anyways, thanks for listening to the show. Thanks especially to those who are listening in the chat room, listening live, and thanks to other contributors for DDOCast, and thanks to Steiner for joining me today. And thanks to Turbine. Again, thank you, Turbine, for the generous donation of all of those points to give away. It really makes it a lot of fun and really gives people incentive to have fun in a different way. And thanks to Wizards for letting DDO happen and making Dungeons & Dragons. Thanks to Cyberbears for hosting the podcast. You can hit us up at DDOcast.com for show notes, our calendar, previous shows, swag, and other fun stuff. If you'd like to be part of the show or you just want to say hi, you can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates. Our tip for the week comes from Arkle on Solona. Press enter at the end of Spinner of Shadows to avoid the Tyrant Crest reward video. Good advice, because that does get old after a while.
Yep.
You'd think you would have to listen to it every time. But such is life. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chests level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to roll up a Warlock and have some fun with the new update.